everybody. You're listening to and watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Hey!
Yes, we have Caleb back with us. He's in the midst of his law school exams, but took some time out after shopping, from what I understand, and got a whole new wardrobe today.
Things happen. I don't know what it was.
Anyway, we were so happy to have you back, and in your honor, because you're part of the EOC team sleeveless, I decided to go sleeveless. So
I should have known, and I should have went and grabbed. I'm in sleeves, so I'm embarrassed.
That's okay.
I've brought shame to my clan.
I'm embarrassed because I'm sleeveless. So
I'm still paler than the two of you, so it doesn't really,
Yeah,
sleeveless. It just means more reflective surface. So.
Oh, let me show you something cool about the shirt, though. It's if you can see it there. It's 84, the year that the
Nice.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles started.
Yay!
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yay, sure. Yeah,
I did. It was before I was reading comics.
I've got a Hulk jersey.
I don't have jerseys.
I'm from Jersey and in Jersey.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
What I did. And this is actually the second time Steve and I have been together this week on a live stream, because we were guests on the Movie Bears podcast, their 400th episode.
Yeah, that was just this past Tuesday.
That was Tuesday.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Crazy. They've had 400 episodes, but they, like we have been more or less for the past year since the pandemic started. We've been more or less weekly. They have been weekly forever.
Basically, I mean, there's like a week or two here that they skip, but it's really impressive how they've been able to maintain that. That's
commitment.
Hats off if I had one. Oh, I have a hat here.
Oh, put it on so you can take it off.
Yeah. So in terms of news, I don't think there's anything big this week apart from the announcement from Reed that New York Comic Con and Florida MegaCon and the previously announced Emerald City and C2E2 are all a go. I don't know how this is going to work. I think it's entirely possible that first of all, the Javits Center is the main vaccination site for New York City right now.
Mm-hmm.
And though you can partition off the various sections of the Javits, and they did say that they're planning on a massively reduced scale show. Reed Pop and Reed Expo, they've been hit with massive layoffs. I believe there's only a fourth of the employees that were working there before the pandemic. And there have been some shows that they have not been able to get together, like BookCon was pushed off, and various boat shows. They do a lot of conventions outside of pop culture stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, I think the biggest issue that I see is there's a lot of these big shows, or normally big shows, that are so close together. Obviously, throughout a standard convention season, it just kind of, it's spread out a little bit more. You do have some stacking of certain shows that are kind of back to back or happening at the same time on both sides of the country. But it looks like pretty much all the big ones are happening at about the same time. So, there's going to be a lot of choices that I think, not just fans who are going to attend or planning on attending, but I think there's going to be a lot of choices that have to be made by the artists, by the writers, by the usual talent, and publishers that normally have a pretty big presence, because they're probably going to have to split up, a lot of the talent, representation in certain places. Now, I mean, who knows? I
tend to agree with David Toby on this. I think it's a bad idea to go ahead. So,
yeah, I do too. I mean, it's also like amazing, because there have been cons that were at the beginning of the pandemic canceled 2021 because they knew they didn't have enough time to get together at the beginning of the pandemic. So, and especially with New York, remaining such a hotbed, and Steve, we've both been to that show many times, and how small some of those panel rooms are.
Yeah.
That I think the smaller panels, they're out. They're just not going to be there.
Well,
and again, you can partition it off. I mean, I remember a very early New York Comic Con before they took over the entire Javits, and part of the Javits was dedicated to Methodist choral group meeting. So that caused a bit of confusion. But I do think it's too early. I do think it's too early. If it was a situation where we have a vaccination passport and everybody in there is vaccinated, I'll feel a bit more comfortable. But the cost of that is probably. Also the New York lines move so damn slow. Even if it's at 1/4 of the capacity, checking everyone's temperature.
Yeah.
Jesus, I mean that's you'll get there at 6. You'll get there at 6 in the morning, and maybe we'll walk in the door at 1 p.m.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dragon Con is going to be happening this year, later, obviously, but it is going to be happening. And that, in the best of times, you are moving like a slug. You're moving like basically a parody version of like a dystopian future, like shuffling back to front about, with 40,000 other people.
Yeah.
If you cut the attendance by even a quarter, you're still going to have, massive crowds moving very slowly, all very packed together in certain parts. So, David Toby also mentions, it's like when a bear run can't book out a whole hotel. Yes and no. I think I think obviously they changed the venue size probably, but at the same time, it's still going to be over. It'll be overplanned.
The one con that I've regularly gone to, which I think could work, is Baltimore, because it is very spacious. It's never the only time you ever see a crowd are the people who were late to the game and buy tickets the same day. That's the only time you ever see a line there.
But same thing with Heroes. I think Heroes Con is similar to that, where it's really just the lineup to get the tickets and the passes where you have that many people together. I did want to leave some people's comments out here, and this is again in reference to what we are wearing. Our good friend Wendy Freeman. Hello, Wendy. Billy's got the guns out.
Actual muscle there. I have had actual muscle for the first time in like 11 years.
Actual muscle, yes. And then also Thomas Anderson. Hello. I thought this was the CBD, not the gun show.
Now Caleb's really wishing he had the sleeveless shirt
on. But it's like, I was referring to the Methodist choir comment. Oh, okay, that's clarifying. Yes,
okay, okay.
When a bear run can't book out the whole hotel.
I get
Methodist choir. You never know. I mean, also, I guess
there's got to be some crossover.
There's got to be a crossover.
There's got to be
Bears and Methodist choirs.
You've seen some of those musical directors. There's got to be some.
Yeah.
So that's about it with news. I mean, I don't think there's been anything breaking.
Well, we do have to talk about the major headline that hit Giant Freaking Robot and then later Bleeding Cool the same day. I think Giant Freaking Robot really, sniped this amazing headline that DC is canceling Superman.
Oh yeah. The bait of click. There is going to be a Superman substituted title called Superman Son of Kal-El.
Yep.
And it's going to basically, the situation is Superman's going to be busy on War World for a certain amount of time, so John Kent, I should say, is going to be the Superman of Earth. And this is also tying into Grant Morrison's Superman and the Authority miniseries as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
being written by Tom Taylor.
Yes.
And that to me is the big draw.
Timothy Taylor
man can do no wrong.
No, he's fantastic.
The other Tom.
The Tom King, Tom Taylor. It's just a world of Toms just taking over. Taking over DC.
Brian's not on the show, so we don't have to talk about Tom King.
Oh. Well. I actually did have X-Men books ready, but I know he's not going to be on, so we can't talk about him. But yeah, I mean that's
no. You're talking Hickman.
Oh, Hickman. Yes.
Yeah,
Hickman.
One of his 3 favorites. Yeah.
One of his 3 favorites.
Yeah.
But John Runyon just came in here and said John Kent has a great first name. I mean I'm indifferent really to Jon, but also does this mean Bill is changing his religion to Marvel?
Never.
I ask the impossible question.
Never.
Well, so it's not a big piece of news, but there was one other thing that came out, and I sent you guys a message just a little bit before the show started. But Kurt Russell has been cast in an upcoming Marvel film. He's actually going to be playing Zeus.
I thought that was
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe,
the other Russell. Yeah. Russell Crowe.
Yeah, Russell Crowe is going to be playing Zeus, which infers the presence of one of my Marvel heroes, like in my top 5 of the Pantheon, pun intended, which is Hercules. So that's just kind of cool.
I cannot. I've never seen an actor that matches my conception of Marvel's Hercules.
Right.
I'm sure there's someone out there. The closest one is this dude in the movie version of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, who plays Milos Gloriosus, who is an opera singer. He's the closest person I've ever seen to having that, horn dog vibe, and I'm with you, Caleb. He's way up in my pantheon, top 5, if not top 3 for Marvel.
I could reach out and just grab someone, and I forget the actor's name, but he was the actor who played in the Neil Gaiman, it was not the Old Gods, but the
American Gods.
He played the Persian in the American Gods.
The Djinn.
Svelte, saw parts of them that I really liked. And if we could get him, like, I have no idea what kind of acting chops this man has, and he really doesn't. If Jason Momoa can be Aquaman, this guy can just be Hercules. So they cast him because he's visually perfect.
Let's see. I am Musa Kraish. Who played the Djinn in American Gods. Unfortunately, he was not in this past series. They explained his absence, that he was off on a task for Wednesday. But yeah, I could see it. I could totally see it.
He fits the mold for Hercules for me. That man's just pretty.
He fits. He certainly fits a mold of and other things.
If he doesn't fit, we can make him fit.
Actually, one of the books that was up
just
for
keep trying.
Actually, one of the books that was up for auction over in the comic store in the next town over, Dr. Wonder, on Tuesday night was Hercules' first appearance in Journey into Mystery Annual 1. And I think that went, and it wasn't a great copy in terms of grade, but I think that went for $210.
That's not bad.
And things are all over the map on that auction, though, because there was a slabbed copy of the Batman New 52 Batman #1. It was the variant, slabbed and signed by Snyder and Capullo, and that only went for $90. I thought something like that would go for far more. Amazing Spider-Man 215. I think that was the biggest auction. That went for $325 in the most recent weeks. Yeah. Oh, I got my books. So handy. Look at this. I may as well talk about them since I got them right here. Since I just realized it. Part of this comic book store, their Tuesday night auctions, they have trivia questions. So me being me, I win a lot. So the books that I won this week are Showcase 93, 7 and 8, and you'll see there those are two very nice Bill Sienkiewicz covers for
Nice.
Two-Face. These are books I've already had. This is also a book I already had. AVX number 8.
Yep.
Yeah. I won G.I. Joe in 3D number 1, being led by Sergeant Slaughter there. Marvel Super Action number 10, the reprint series from the late 70s. And again, not in great shape, but an issue of Our Army at War number 158, which is also the first appearance of Sergeant Rock's main villain, the Iron Major. And then there were 2 books I won at auction. Total of $6 paid. It's pretty hard to find.
High roller.
This is a beautiful copy. I'm not like a grade crazed person, but this is Men of War number 14, and Men of War and Unknown Soldier are late 70s, early 80s DC war titles that are fairly hard to come by these days. GI Combat and Sergeant Rock are much easier to find, but slowly trying to fill in my late 70s and 80s gap. So got Men of War number 14. And this one I'm so happy about. Green Lantern number 88.
Nice.
And this was a break in the action from Green Lantern, Green Arrow. The last issue of Green Lantern, Green Arrow in the original Adams and O'Neill run was number 89. They blew their deadline for 88. So this was sort of a reprint title, but the Green Lantern story from the Golden Age with Alan Scott, it was actually an inventory story, so it had never appeared before. And so it was created in the 40s, saw print in the 70s, and it's never been reprinted. So I'm very happy to find this book, because every time I've gone for this book, it's been like a really high grade issue and pricey, and $3 is a lot more palatable.
So for the trivia, are they doing that in person? Or are you actually going to the shop there, or are you doing it online?
No, it's online.
Okay, cool.
It's online. And that's frustrating because, the way routers and Wi-Fi works, there are times where, I clearly have the answer, but somebody beats me. Like, let me do this to you guys. What's the name of the race that Captain Marvel is from?
Kree.
Yeah. So in the time that you type Kree, somebody may have beaten you to it. So it's a little frustrating when that happens.
My youth worked against me. I was thinking of Carol Danvers. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, Earth.
Oh, those Utes always thinking that they're on top of things.
Yeah.
Although didn't it get like revealed in the most recent sort of like retcon of her, well, not retcon, but like expansion of her origin, that she's also already part Kree?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of
not just the part that Marvel left in her. Oh, anyway, yeah.
That was one of my favorite Comic Book Bears episodes when we did the spotlight on Captain Marvel, and it was so much we hadn't read.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! But right around the time of the movie.
Yeah. So we were like, so I read this, and
I read this, and I was like, oh, I guess it was. Well, I found this. I found this on Comixology, so I read it.
I totally did not mean to bogart that with the auction wins. It just felt right. Sorry.
No, great.
Yeah, there's all
right.
all comics over here that I have to log in from the convention on Sunday. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You went to the convention with friend of the show, Chris Cummins, and picked up quite a haul.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly bin books, at 50 cents or lower. Someone got real mad at Bloodshot because there was like this huge stack of Bloodshots, and it's like the later issues that are hard to find. What?
The Lemire stuff?
No, 90s.
Oh, gotcha.
The original 90s Valiant, an acclaimed Valiant.
But as I posted on my personal Facebook page, I made that sound 10 times sexier than it is. Sometimes when you go to comic conventions, some of the best gets you got are not comic related, and I got this amazing magazine, the Beatles, the greatest, meet the Dave Clark Five from late 1964, and
Nice.
it is amazing reading time capsules like this, and just love that stuff.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm picturing the photo shoots there. Did they actually physically meet, or was it just pictures?
No, it's just
of
pictures.
just okay.
It's just pictures. There's an album that was released in 1964 at the height of Beatles exploitation. The company that had the rights to their first album, VJ Records, were also the Four Seasons label, so they put the Beatles meet the Four Seasons, and it was just like 2 albums put together. It was kind of nutty, but no,
like trying to do a mashup, but way before they figured out what mashups actually were.
If they had thought about it, maybe they'd put like one track and then one track and one track, but that wasn't exactly an even playing field, I don't think.
No,
So
no, I don't think so. Oh, well, should we talk comics?
Sure, it's in the name of the show. Let's do it. Okay, Steve,
awesome.
Tell us about something you're reading that you're digging. There,
well, yeah, I'm digging some comics, and actually, I'm gonna shock people a little bit today, because mostly what I talk about on the show is indie books, lots and lots of indie books. If it's Dark Horse, well, indie, but like Dark Horse, if it's AWA, or if it's it's been a while, but Valiant I used to bring up.
We get it, Steve. We get it. I'm big too. We get it.
But Marvel. I'm talking about a Marvel book this time. Shocking. And it's America Chavez #2. America Chavez Made in the USA #2, which is her latest series. I don't think she's had a solo series since America back in 2017, 2018. And I unfortunately missed that one. It was by Gabby Rivera was the author on that. And I just wasn't feeling it back then. In fact, that was kind of around when I was moving, so I really wasn't interested in adding more books to my pull list. But I'm really digging this. With America Chavez, the only time I've really enjoyed reading her was in team books. So whether it's A-Force, or whether it's, of course, Young Avengers from McKelvey and Gillen, she really does play well with others. So I really enjoyed that. This is the first time I'm actually reading her, solo stuff. And, I think she's most recently from the West Coast Avengers. So the first issue kind of opens up with her on the West Coast, fighting whatever bad guys that's happening there. But something brings her back to basically back to New York, where we find out a little bit more about her origin. And I think most people kind of get her origin. She's she's a lesbian, Latinx, multi-dimensional hero who has 2 mothers that are in this utopian parallel or whatever other dimensional location. And we're being told in this series that she actually came to Earth 616 and was raised mostly from like a young child by a family in the Santanas in, I believe, the Bronx. And so she's basically going back home to the people that raised her, that kept her safe and nurtured her through her adolescence and until she went off and became a hero. And it's interesting because they're trying to figure out, and the author in this one is and I'm going to get her name wrong, but it's Kalinda Vasquez, on art with Carlos Gomez, basically telling us here that the reason that we didn't know about that is because she kind of broke off with that time of her life. She was discovered by this family on a beach, and had no memory of her past or where she was from when she was a small girl, and then somehow, like, over time, was getting her memories back. And in this issue, in issue #2, we find out that as the memories came back, and she realized that she's actually not even from this earth, and that she has 2 mommies, and She has these superpowers, like she can fly, she can punch, she makes stars happen, she can punch through dimensions. Everything's kind of coming back, and she wants to be a hero. And so she's a local neighborhood hero, sort of like an equivalent of Spider-Man, who makes a quick little cameo in this issue as well. But her family, her foster family, that's been taking care of her, foster family for lack of a better word, that's made her part of their family, of their extended group. She's finding herself distancing from them. And her foster mother especially almost takes offense of the fact that, here's this girl that they've raised, that they've given so much love, and they've made part of her family. And yet all she talks about is, I'm not even from here. I need to be out there being a hero. I don't need to, do what's best for my family. I'm here to do what's best for everybody because I'm a hero. And, of course, her heart's in the right place, but becomes kind of counterproductive, and she finds herself at odds with her foster mother completely and ends up just severing ties. She actually just heads out. And at the time of this comic, she hasn't been back to see her family in over 3 years. And so, when she's brought back due to an attack on her family, somebody who knows her history on this earth, she immediately goes right back into sort of like detective hero mode, trying to figure out, well, I need to stop this person because they know about my history. They know about my identity and this family that raised me. And meantime, the family that's there is like, can you just spend time with us? Can we catch up? Can we, reconnect? And she's like, no, I don't have time for that because it's too dangerous. And it's an interesting dynamic because with characters like this, with America Chavez, we've been introduced to her as this badass who's just constantly, go, punch, kick. And it seems that it really doesn't catch up with her all that much. And again, I haven't read her, the other series by Gabby Rivera. But it seems here we're seeing where that's causing a problem in her personal life. And not just, her relationships from the West Coast Avengers and her girlfriend, but now we're seeing that with her family, in New York, and that maybe there's something else that she needs to do to kind of understand herself and also her place in this world, not just in terms of like, I'm a big superhero from another dimension, but also it's like, I can be a person, I can have a family. I've got people here who care about me deeply. And so it's very interesting. I'm not going to spoil the end of this because it seems like the person who knows about her past might be, let's say, from somewhere else and knows a little bit more than we suspect them to know. But it's very interesting. I'm really enjoying the direction of this book, and I recommend picking it up. Even if you're not too familiar with America Chavez, it's a good right now to kind of get into her because she is going to be coming to the MCU. She's been cast, and I believe I'm not really sure what series she's going to be popping in on, but it's coming in the next couple of years. So maybe time to bone up.
Okay, you kept saying West Coast Avengers. Isn't this a New York-based character?
She is, but she was part of the West Coast Avengers briefly, I think. 2018, 2019, I think they put her on that team.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say she's a character that can hop through portals, so she's kind of an everywhere at any time character. But yeah, they moved her when Kelly Thompson wrote the West Coast Avengers. They moved her over there. She was kind of getting this brand new start. It was a lot of people that were actually from the East Coast jumped over there and had this kind of brand new let's grab it by the collar start. And if anybody hasn't read that series, it is incredible. I was so angry, like viscerally angry when that series got canceled. For many reasons, none the least of which is Jeff the baby land shark, who is adorable and awesome. There was just so much about that series that was over the top and in the best kind of way. But like Steve said, she starts a relationship there with a kind of a new character. And so I hope they carry a lot of that through. Kelly Thompson left a lot to play with in that, but so she was just kind of bouncing back and forth.
Was she also part of the non-Ultimate Universe Ultimates?
Yes,
Was she on
yeah,
that
she
team?
was part of
Okay.
that team too.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
She's been a part of a lot of teams, and that's kind of how I know her. I don't know the character from a lot of from her solo stuff, and there hasn't been a lot.
Mhm.
She's been around since 2011, so 10 years at this point.
Yeah.
And most of the time that she's featured as part of a group. Of course, the biggest one that I loved was Young Avengers.
Young Avengers.
But A-Force and a lot of things during during the last Secret Wars and all this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on with her. But I think in this series and possibly with Gabby Rivera's book, there's a lot more going on about her cultural identity and her status as a Latinx character. And I think having the creative team on this book, that's really important to them. And bringing that character back from, gallivanting on all over the country, all over the universe with, superhero teams, as diverse and wonderful as that can be, and making it a little bit more of a more personal story. And I kind of like that, and bringing the idea of family and all of that.
Shout out to Tony Gilkinson, who dropped in the chat. America Chavez is joining Doctor Strange, which is going to be really cool, right? Because we're talking about the dimension hopping, the warping universes. But when you think about the MCU at large right now, that opens up a lot of questions, because we've had and I guess spoilers a little bit, but you've had Wiccan and Speed somewhat introduced, and they're the old Young Avengers. Right now, if you can connect the dots, it hints at the existence of Patriot, which is again the old group of the Young Avengers. But we're getting America Chavez. And I think that they've hinted at some other of the quote unquote new Young Avengers bringing in. So it's I would kill to see any one of those teams or a hodgepodge of either. But it's kind of curious about who they're going to bring in and how those individuals are going to play off each other.
Well, definitely, we'll be introduced to to Hawkeye as well.
Right.
But yeah, America Chavez. Made in the USA. America Chavez made in the USA. Issue number 2 just came out last week. So yeah.
Okay, over to Caleb. Tell us about something you're reading that you're digging.
All right. So I don't remember when I fell in love with James Stokoe, but at some point I fell in love with James Stokoe. And so he's got a new series out. I'm trying to do this without too much glare. Called Orphan and the Five Beasts. And the thing I love about James Stokoe is he literally does it all. He writes, he draws, he inks, he does his colors. And he's one of the most kinetic artists that you're going to find on the shelves today. I mean, there are a few people that he's in good company with. Trad Moore, Raphael Grandpa, people in that vein. But he's able to pull stuff out of the ether, and it just shows his love of not just American-based pop culture, but just pop culture in general. A lot of the old kung fu genre films, just anything and everything. His Aliens Dead Orbit was phenomenal. I would commit crimes to own a page out of that, and might have to be able to afford one. But this series, it's somewhere my law professors are just going, nope. But this series, it comes from Dark Horse. Like I said, it's a new book called Orphan and the Five Beasts. And the story opens up, this is, you don't exactly know where in the world it is. You can kind of assume it's an East Asiatic country, but you're not really sure if it's a real place, if it's a mystical place, where it's at. But it opens up and there's this village, and this guy comes running into the village, and he's in really bad shape. The dude's been just brutalized. He's next to death. And he kind of falls down at the edge of the village, and folks come out to help him. And he's got a brand on his forehead, just right here in the middle. And they're all taken aback. But this isn't just any village. This is kind of a special village, as you might imagine. Like the forces are kind of aligning. In this village, there is an old master, and he's ancient. I mean, he's like literally living in a pot, filled up with water. Holding them together. He's got a pipe connected to it so he can smoke. That's great. He's got his priorities set, but he can't really get out of his pot. But he's adopted this young, I'm assuming it's a girl. I don't know if it ever comes out and says, but it's this character named Mo, and they call him or her. I'm going to go with her just because I think it's a girl, but they call her Orphan Mo. and we don't really know where she's came from, but he's this old master's taken her under his wing, and kind of taught her uh, a all of his secrets, all of his house's secrets. But this isn't the first time that he's taken people under his wing. Way back in the day when he was, not sequestered to pottery, he was very in and active in this village, and the village came under siege, and it was literally under siege by this character that they describe as a wolf in man's skin. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's this character. Um, and he's a warlord. He comes from over the mountains from the east. I think he's, in a lot of ways, you can assume he's a Mongol. From you can kind of place that transference there. But he's wrecking shop. Like, he's coming in, he's destroying the village after village, and they don't know how to stop him. But these five kind of formless figures, or at least they're formless in the story, come to him and they say, hey, like, we want to save our people, we want to save our village, our villages, we want to do good, we need you to teach us your ways. And the old master, he questions it because these are his family, his house's secrets, but eventually he decides on, okay, these people are giving of themselves, they want to do good, they earn the right to have this. And so he teaches them, each one of them gets a different aspect of his house, and he sends them off to battle the wolf in man's clothing, and inevitably they're triumphant, and they're supposed to come back, and they're supposed to be benevolent, and they're supposed to give of themselves. But as you might imagine, that doesn't exactly happen. They don't come back. They scatter to the four winds, and they abuse the tenets of the old master's religion, his kung fu, his, whatever you want to call it, and they take advantage of it. Well, years and years and years later, like I said, this guy runs into the village, and they find this brand on his forehead that was the same brand as the defeated wolf in man's skin. And what they start to realize slowly but surely is that the five aspects, these five formless figures, are coming back, and they're infecting the earth. They are now the five beasts. They're not formless. They're not giving of themselves. They are decrepit. They are the thorn that's festering in the world. And if they don't defeat them, like, it's the same thing is going to happen. They're the five beasts are going to overrun everything. They're going to cripple everything about this village and just destroy it all. Everything these people hold dear and love. So the old master kind of musters all of what's left of his energy and imbues everything he has left on Orphan Mo, and sends Orphan Mo out to go find them. They don't know where they're at. He's like, look, the warrior's journey starts right here. Here, go. Here's a spear. Have some armor. Go check all this stuff out. And Orphan Mo does, and kind of just picks a direction. Goes out into the world, and eventually what he stumbles upon is these bandits who are attacking, ransacking, stealing from this little travel train of monks, who they're raising food for the villages, and they're stealing all the food. And these are the Bruised Pine bandits. And so Orphan Mo, walks up and is like, no, this isn't going to work. Like, what are y'all doing? This you're not cutting it. Stop. And they're just like, bro, we're the Bruised Pine bandits, like, kind of like the Wet Bandits from from Lost in New York. But Orphan Mo is just like, we can do this the hard way if you want to, and proceeds to just whip all kinds of ass. It's beautiful. James Stokoe, the way he lays it out, the kung fu is awesome. The way that these panels move are just breathtaking. It's some of the most gorgeous and fun artwork that you're going to see on the shelves today. Well, as you might expect, Orphan Mo's triumphant. She gets the job done. But these are just low people on the, in the group, and they're just like, hey, look, the boss is going to be pissed. So if you want to go deal with him, that's fine. And the boss is indeed pissed, and they take Orphan Mo back to the village, and this is the first time where you see one of the quote unquote five beasts in a form. Like I said, in the rest of the story, they were these kind of muddied figures. You couldn't see the face. but now that this one gets unveiled, you can start to see what the book is going to do. As she goes to each one of them, it's going to start showing you what they look like. Well, this figure is none other than Thunder Thighs, and he's the first of the 5 beasts. And is just
he got them rugby legs.
Yeah, massive hulking figure who explodes the horse with his thighs, because James Stokoe, that's why. And by the end of this first issue, they're setting up the fight. Orphan Mo and Thunder Thighs, the horse exploder, are going to have one hell of an epic showdown. And you don't have to wait to get that, because this past Wednesday, issue 2 hit the shelves. So, and I don't want to tell you about this because just hit the shelves. Folks haven't read it yet, but I would encourage you to run out and get this. If you like old Kung Fu books, if you are just anybody who enjoys art, period, sequential or otherwise, you're going to want to check this out. It is ridiculous. It is over the top. It is brutal, but it's really fun. And, Thunder Thighs.
Thighs. The only Stokoe I've read is Orc Stain, and that was at this point 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in my wheelhouse, but I completely appreciated that he has a very distinct voice. Mm-hmm. It looks like the art has evolved a bit since that time from what you were showing there. I don't think it would be anything I'd gravitate towards, but he's definitely a singular talent. I will say that.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. I like how he from the description of it. I know the art isn't necessarily what you'd expect for a manga style, but the kind of shadowy figures when doing flashbacks. I mean, that's a kind of visual trope that I've seen a lot in manga series, where you've got the shadowy figure in the background where all they are. Even if it's even if they shouldn't be in shadows, like it should be like very clear who this person is, because it's something that the author didn't want to reveal to the reader just yet. They're always just sort of like, the face is completely obscured, or the figure sort of, wavy and indistinct. And then like, as the story progresses, then you get introduced to who that character or those characters are. And I like that style. I think it's clever.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. He's very much in that school with folks like Jeff Darrow, Scroshi, I think is in that similar vein. Like I said, Raphael Grandpa, even guys like and
Brandon Turner, definitely.
Brandon Turner, Daniel Warren Johnson does a lot of the same work, and that's a different look. But they're very much influenced by
I actually think
manga masters.
I actually think he did do. I think he did sub for Brandon in one issue of Prophet.
Did he?
Brandon Graham?
Who did the reinvention of Prophet?
That was Brandon Graham.
Yeah. Brandon Graham. I'm sorry, not Brandon. Yeah, Brandon Graham. Yeah. That's who I meant.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to talk about a book that has just hit the shelves. It hit the shelves on Tuesday. It's already sold out everywhere. It's already been announced that there's a second and third printing. And it was so bad that I was offended reading it. I was offended by this book. Now, you all know I'm a positive Polly.
Wow.
But every once in a while, a book hits a spot for you that's a sore spot, and you just have to vent about it. And I hit my limit with Batman Fortnite #1. La Bamba. Now, the biggest problem, the biggest problem with this is if it's a crossover with another franchise, you should give, it should be easy on the reader if they're not familiar with that franchise. I don't know a thing about Fortnite. I know it's a video game. That's about the extent of my knowledge about Fortnite. I know it's a video game, and I know that their products go very quickly to sell through. And then Brian explained to me it's because there's so many seasons. So that made sense that it's not a failure as a franchise. It's just that things have a very brief shelf life, and then you can get them for cheaper. That's fine. There have been crossovers that I've read in the past. Lumberjanes and Gotham Academy comes to mind,
Mhm.
where I did not know a thing about Lumberjanes, but it was laid out in a very refined manner so that you understood what the basic concept of Lumberjanes was. Justice League and Black Hammer was the same way. If you were unfamiliar with Black Hammer, you understand you understood the gist of what was happening in Black Hammer. There was a series years ago. There was a Arabic oriented series called The 99. Do you guys
Mhm.
remember this? There was a TV
I've heard of it,
documentary
yeah.
on that, and there was a Justice League 99 crossover. You knew everything you needed to know about 99, about the 99 characters within the first 3 pages. This book didn't do that, like one bit. And I'll tell you the plot in like this is what you get. There's a tear in the fabric of reality in Gotham. Some people are leaving town because they're scared of it. Other crazy ass people like Harley Quinn are running towards it because they think it's going to be fun. And if you go through the tear in reality, you enter another place. So Batman enters the other place. There's this guy. I have no idea who the hell he is the first one to attack him. And so Batman, while he's in this place, forgets who he is. Duke keeps attacking him, and then he like sort of like vanquishes that guy, but then there's a whole bunch of other people, and then Catwoman comes along, and though Batman doesn't realize who Catwoman is, he does have a sense that they are connected somehow, and they fight more, and they fight a little bit more, and then they have like a almost quasi embrace, and that's the end of the issue. Christos Gage wrote this. Christos Gage is a very good writer. I've
Yes.
really liked a lot of his stuff. But it didn't serve its purpose. It did not serve its purpose of a reader like me knowing a single thing about the world of Fortnite. I know as much unless that like maybe I'd recognize this guy if I saw him again. That's about it. It didn't
Hmm.
tell me anything about the world of Fortnite. So do people forget who they are when they're in Fortnite, or uh, are these marauding characters? Are they like very familiar characters? I have no idea from this issue. It was a bomb. La Bamba.
So I put this up here for the people watching the live stream, but
Oh man.
um, David Toby mentions I need a GIF of Bill thumbs downing and sing La Bamba. Um, yes, I'm sure that's coming to a Giphy trove near you, but so I know very little about Fortnite. It's not really my game because I'm not a big battle arena or massively multiplayer online anything. Um, I think that the conceit of them forgetting who they are when they're going through the tear might just be for the comic to kind of explain why they're there. Possibly, I mean, people who actually do play the game, maybe there is some kind of other thing because recently they've had a lot of crossovers. As Brian mentioned, they've recently had Galactus, they've had the X-Men, they've had several other different.
As part of
Yeah,
the
it's part of the game,
Yeah.
and it's part of the season process. Like every season they have like a new event happens and new characters are introduced for a limited time that you can get, and they're basically for players. They're a lot of times they're just kind of like a skin that you can get. So like whatever character you're playing or whatever formless creature that you've been buying and finding like things to put on and accessorize with, like this is a skin that you can possibly get, and sometimes there are also characters you can interact with during the matches. But yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I'm thinking the last big video game tie-in series that DC did that I thought was incredible was, of course, Injustice. So based on that, Tom Taylor, based on that, I kind of would have expected something like this, and with Christos Gage, like something to at least have a story that makes sense or something that's kind of adds to the lore somehow. But
Well, the one thing I have to wonder is for people who are more inclined for Fortnite, if so for us, we don't need anything to tell us who Batman is, right? Batman is just
Right.
Batman.
Yeah.
We're longtime fans, longtime readers, everything else. I wonder if some of these figures are so inundated in Fortnite lore culture because it's been around for a few years now
Mhm.
that character is so important to Fortnite that people who are in that world don't need the narrative introduction. And if
Mhm.
Christos Gage was just saying, "Hey, like you know who this person is if you know anything about Fortnite," and we don't, and I think that may be the issue. But the one thing I will say about this, I didn't pick this book up. I'm not interested in this book. I'm not a Fortnite person. I really don't like. I don't like these type of like licensed crossovers.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I talked to my friends who work at comic shops. They had people coming in that they had never seen before, left
Yep.
and right, grabbing as many of these as possible. And it's not these were kids coming in, and I know we have different opinions on should like try to get kids invested, involved, whatever, just right for whatever. But these weren't scalpers. These weren't people who were coming in to flip them on eBay for whatever money. These were kids. These were people who wanted
Mhm.
to read the book, coming in and snatching these comics off the
Mhm.
shelf, and that's cool. Like
Right.
Yeah.
to me, I'm
But
just like that. Like,
on that note, though, there also is a cosmetic item that you can get a download code for,
Yeah.
and this already
That's
went to
why.
Brian. That is already went to Brian. So I do
oh,
think
Yeah.
that there's that element of that too. But
cool,
you should give me something to say
right?
what the hell Fortnite is about. I don't know. Is it another dimension? Is it our own
Yeah,
world but a different time? You can't tell anything from this book about that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
all
I
I
can
know
see
is
that.
it
Yeah.
made the floss possible or popular.
Yeah. But that also does remind me, if you remember, God, at this point, this is some years ago when the World of Warcraft
Yeah,
comics came out. The first few issues, and those were being sold at GameStop and doing
Mhm.
really good numbers. Um, I'm always glad to see a comic book selling a lot, no matter what the circumstances.
Right.
But this didn't do its job as far as I'm
right.
concerned, and that gets
Every
me
comic is somebody's
mad.
first, so they gotta plant the
Yeah.
seed. Gotta give them something to latch on to.
Hopefully this is the good first the good first experiment
Mhm.
for a lot of people, a lot of kids playing Fortnite, that they might want to go from this and say, hey, the art's pretty awesome, the fights are kind of cool, I like some of these characters, I'm not too familiar with some of them, so the DC ones anyway.
The artist was
Let me go pick up a.
the artist was Riley Brown,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
it does seem kind of, I don't know, pedestrian to me.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
only
I
because
just
we're jaded from years and years and
yeah, I
years
guess
of
I don't know.
massive, you know,
And there's always
different
that
styles.
aspect of, okay, you're not the core audience, but
Hmm.
a finely crafted crossover like this should have some elements sprinkled in there. It doesn't They don't have to tell me everything about the world that I'm not familiar with, but just something. I don't know anything about Fortnite still after reading 22 pages in this. Not a thing.
With ads.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Tell us about another book to cheer us up.
we do have a quick little comment here from John Westoff that Caleb is not allowed out of the study cave. So I don't know,
I-
Caleb, if you want to respond to
I'm in my
that.
study cave. This is my study cave.
It's got all the things in it. It's amazing you can get studying done because there's just so much cool
Don't
stuff.
don't worry.
Oh.
Outlines. I've got outlines aplenty. They are within arm's reach.
Oh
Also,
man. Oi.
this is the kind of law student I am. This is an outline that I typed up that I've now binded, and it's just this is what I use to study. I've made an entire book. That's the
I've
kind of
done.
man.
I would do that. I would do that. And at the law firm that I worked at, they had one of those spiral
Mm-hmm.
binders. That thing you put the and it's like
Yep.
universal sound for the spiral binder. But yeah,
What
I
was
used to do that too.
what was
Yeah.
the name of the law firm that the Car Talk brothers used to? Was it Dewey, Cheatham and Howe? I don't know. I used to
Uh,
listen to a lot of NPR when I was a kid,
yeah.
and Car Talk was always on. So anyway,
I think right. Yeah.
comics, comics. So here's another Marvel book because shock, why not? Why not another Marvel book? And this one, I think those of you who are maybe born after say 1990 or 2000, if there's anybody watching or listening. Darkhawk. Is anybody really familiar with Darkhawk? Who didn't see the creation of this character in the early 90s? Yeah, some of us are. Yeah, and you know what?
I knew him through West Coast Avengers.
There you go.
And that's interesting because he was based in Queens, but was a West Coast Avenger member because that's who they gave Roy Thomas access to. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
Well, and this is the thing. Like, Darkhawk is straight out of when I was first reading comics. In the late 80s, early 90s. There was a boom of new characters that Marvel was trying out. Marvel, DC, everybody trying to, get into making another franchise, making another character who's going to become like the next hot property, especially when there was a lot of competition going on with Image and, trying to capture new readers. And Darkhawk came about, and he's kind of like a Spider-Man, but a little bit more extreme because he had claws on one, crazy wings, and of course Darkhawk, and he had dark energy, and like there was all this stuff, but he was still at heart, this clean-cut kid from Queens who, found an amulet and just wants to do good, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there, but Darkhawk kind of petered out after a while, because I don't think he really caught on in a big sense. And of course, I had stopped reading comics by the time that his title ended. So I didn't know too much about it, but I was struck with a sense of nostalgia when I saw this on the shelf. So it's Darkhawk, Heart of the Hawk, which is a one-shot that essentially does the job of a Wikipedia page, but much better, I think. In that it introduces you to this character. For people who have never read Darkhawk before, who weren't around in the early 90s when he was a thing, or haven't really caught him in some of his appearances since then, when they've tried to bring the character back, this is a great primer. It's 3 separate stories, each one sort of taking place in an era of Darkhawk's history and lore, where you get more of the character, you learn more about what the character is, and kind of the changes and kind of the interesting developments that different authors have taken over the years to try and flesh out this character and make it more interesting. So the first story is very much right in the middle of his original run, where he's still just sort of a local hero, hanging out, fighting the mob. There's a very, I would say, a very 80s, 70s, 60s style Marvel story that's going on where he goes and he dates or goes out on a date randomly with the daughter of the mob boss. And he's saved her as Darkhawk before, and now he's going undercover, I guess, as a date to the opera. And what do these 2 crazy kids know about the opera? Nothing. But it puts them in a place where they're going to be coming under attack, where Darkhawk can, jump and save the day, and ends up fighting another character, who's also an armored vigilante, which there were a lot of in the early 90s. Tons of armored vigilantes. Every time you turn around, there's another new number one. And he fights with them, but also then saves the people with him around, in the opera house that are about to be crushed. There's a lot of really great, basic, I would say, very early 90s action that's happening. Lots of explosions, lots of pretty colors. And I would say it's kind of a pedestrian story, but it's exactly what you would expect to read in this kind of title in the early 90s. It's very Spider-Man-esque. It's very, street level. Here's a hero with, I guess, cosmic powers, but he's kind of street level, and he's just a normal guy who's trying to figure stuff out, like a usual detective vigilante teen. Then it jumps to a very different Darkhawk. In the second story, you're on some colony world, billions of light years away from Earth. They've just basically been devastated in the War of Kings, which was a mid-2000s major event at Marvel, maybe mid to late 2000s. Guardians of the Galaxy were involved, the Kree, like everything, Shi'ar, like everything just, stuff blew up and lots of people died, and, it's very, very big. And here he is at the
War of Kings was basically a follow-up to Annihilation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's all just like one after another. But this is a more cosmic Darkhawk. So here he is smashing up the Brood, who have taken root on this world that's already been devastated by war, and they're just kind of using it as a breeding ground for more brood. And he's slicing through them, he's destroying them, and there's something that people there, these alien races and these people that he's saving, recognize him because he's part of, apparently, the amulet that gave him power is part of this other race of armored warriors that are almost like mercenaries, or sort of like a Knights Templar that have been going around and destroying the Brood, for example, and other alien menaces, sort of for eons at this point. But they have a pretty bad reputation of just not caring about collateral damage. So he's still learning about it at this point, but there's something much more adult. He's no longer just a kid from Queens. He's now a mature intergalactic warrior. And that just leads into, of course, the final story, which really ties everything up into a bow. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's the final evolution of his character up to the point where I guess we would see him now. And I know that there's a title that is coming out, and he is going to be brought back in Marvel coming this summer. So it's a great introduction. It's a great primer. If you need to know about Darkhawk and just don't have the time to go and read, stuff on Marvel Unlimited, or dig through, 4 for $1 boxes, because you can find a lot of that stuff cheap, at least for now. Some of it, not a lot of it, but you can find some of it cheap now.
Darkhawk #1 is a hot book now.
Yeah.
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 It's a hot book now. After being at a convention this past Sunday and seeing wall books, it's a hot book. The hottest books right now are related to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yep.
But it's a wall book right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously that's pushing, because he is going to be coming back in. Darkhawk is going to be coming back in as a prime figure at some point, at least this summer. But yeah, I mean, have either of you guys? I know, Bill, you had mentioned you'd read.
Yeah, I was familiar with the character initially through West Coast Avengers, when I tried to catch up with what I had left behind with comics. And West Coast Avengers and get this, Force Works were like two of the Marvel titles that I was actively collecting when I first got back into comics. I eventually read some very early Darkhawk. And I think you hit it right. It like hit that young vibe that was in a lot of characters then. The Danny Ketch Ghost Rider was certainly in that.
Yeah.
In that area as well. Of Spider-Man having aged out of it, and them looking for another character that would kind of take that mantle. In the 70s was Nova. So there always is that. I don't want to say that need for a character, but there always seems to be some character within Marvel that operates within that confused but gradually more confident youth who's been bestowed powers and blah blah blah.
And that makes sense, because it's Tom DeFalco, right? Like, I mean, that's who one of the co-creators was, and Tom DeFalco. I mean, I think I'd have to check it, but I'm fairly certain his biggest numbers are on Spider-Man. No,
it's actually Spider-Girl.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Really?
Yeah. But that also is very interesting, because just take that twist to a female aspect, and there's a lot of things that you can say about May Parker that we just said about Chris and who's gonna watch it, and Danny Ketch. And I just messed this up here. Hang on, but a Darkhawk book that I would recommend, and you mentioned it. If you can see here, you probably can't. I have the 2-issue run of Darkhawk War of Kings tie-in. This was written by C.B. Cebulski, who is now Marvel's editor-in-chief. And this series showed that he has writing chops as well. And what happens in this very brief series, but very potent and expansive series. Again, you're talking about a major crossover at the time, and you do see Darkhawk first being based on Earth, and seeing he's not exactly a kid. He has a job with Project Pegasus, but there is that cosmic element that encroaches into his life and basically engulfs him, for lack of a better term. And a 2-issue run, and it's pretty good. So I would say if you want to check something out where you get a very brief snapshot of the character, I would check that out. And it sounds like they hit that point in the second story that you were talking about. I initially was going to get this, but it was a little bit over the budget. It was like a $5.99 book.
It's a $5 book.
Yeah, it was
$4.99. Yeah,
$4.99. So it got chopped off my DCBS budget, but I certainly would pick it up on a 99-cent sale, and I'm interested to see what happens with the character come later this year when there is something brewing for him.
And if you're going back and reading some of the old stuff, just make sure you type in Darkhawk and you don't misspell it and accidentally type in Shadowhawk, which will only lead to sadness. So
you got me there, man. I like Shadowhawk.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I felt that was the most adult of the Image titles when they first hit.
I can
those times, wasn't it?
AIDS, there's a lot of There's a lot of strange elements, but I did think out of the initial Image series that was the one that was at least a little grown up.
It had very interesting covers.
That was Jim Valentino.
Valentino's.
Okay. Yeah.
It was Shadow Line. It was the start of his Shadow Line.
Gotcha.
Imprint. But yeah, I remember all the covers. In fact, I think I probably have like 3 or 4 copies of like some of the die cut or 3D covers.
Chrome embossed.
I was 12. What did I know?
I'm gay. I have AIDS.
So bad.
Okay. Okay, so we're going over to Caleb for another book. Caleb, tell us about something you're reading to dig in.
All right. Well, I was going to talk to you about the most recent Star Wars series, Star Wars: The High Republic, mostly so I could shout out my straight husband, Craig. But Steve has us covered on the Marvel, and I just shouted out my straight husband, Craig. So I've covered my bases there and can talk about something else.
Craig. Hi, Craig.
There is this is actually a hardcover, but there is a series coming out.
Sorry, that was my shout out. Okay,
he's gonna love that when he sees it. I am a.
Okay, I won't go further. Sorry.
Oh, he's gonna love that little bit. I'm a huge Conan fan, right? Like that's like I literally had the person who officiated my wedding like bless my wedding in the name of Crom. It's just a huge Conan fan. And of course, Conan right now, as far as the namesake goes, is over at the House of Ideas with Steve. But there is another company, another publisher called Ablaze that is taking some. They're doing something really cool. So they're taking the old Robert E. Howard scripts, the old books, and they're giving them to these kind of European style artists to retell. They're not rewriting any things. These aren't brand new stories or anything. They're literally the original stories, the same stuff that you would find in some of those old, the old
the original Howard Pulp novels. And I think it's important to say that one of the reasons why this can happen is because those particular Conan books have entered the public domain in certain territories.
Yep.
And that's why this can even happen. Yeah.
And so while they're not called Conan, they are called the Cimmerian. And I've read all of these just because I wasn't going to let them go. They were presented as the, Robert E. Howard stories told unfiltered and uncut as they were always meant to be. They don't really deserve that moniker. Like there's not any it's not like XXX stuff by any means. And some of the more recent ones are getting a little bit looser with what they'll show. I mean, they show some, pubic hair of all things, but that's kind of it. Of all the things they could show. I mean, but they're really great. So like I said, if you like the old Roy Thomas written stories, like the old Savage Sword stuff, you should check this out, and you can get this now on hardcover. The first little batch is now produced, and it's not going to break the bank either. It's like if you buy it straight off the shelf, $25 for a great hardcover collection. But she's thick. She's all kinds of, like, I think 5 different stories, and for me, like I said, I've read a lot of these because I've read a lot of the Robert E. Howard stuff. I've read a lot of the Roy Thomas stuff, and Roy Thomas pulled a lot of just straight Robert E. Howard stuff to his own stories. He just adapted them. But for me, the draw in these books is the art, because like they're getting a lot of these European style artists, and you're getting some some bande dessinée look to it. I don't know if you can see this without too much.
Yeah, gorgeous.
And it's pulpy. It's beautiful. It's violent. With these, the artists don't try to mesh in with each other from one title to the next. I mean, I just showed you this one. This one's way more cartoony than what that last one was. Reminds me a little bit of like Chew or a book like that. So you get like a broad scope of just incredibly gorgeous art, taking Robert E. Howard's words and just laying it out in sequential form. And for somebody like me who is, look, the first time I saw Conan was obviously in the movie Conan the Barbarian, and there is some space between his loincloth and his navel to where I knew I was gay. Like there's that little area right in there that just made me a homosexual.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
that part.
it's near and dear to my heart. So if you like that kind of stuff and you want some really just like pure, straight into the vein Conan, straight into the vein Robert E. Howard, you've got to check out this Ablaze stuff. I double dipped. I've got all the single issue floppies. I'm getting all the hardcovers. If they come out with an omnibus, I'm going to throw it on the shelf too. So check these out. Really cool stuff.
Okay.
Sweet.
I like it when my friends like comics. But let me say this, because my problem with Conan is I feel like there's 5 stories and they're just reinterpreted again and again. If I was going to read a Conan book, it would more likely be something like that than what we're having over at Marvel at this point, because again, you're going directly from the original source, and there is something novel about using those particular artists to interpret the story. So that I will say.
And I don't disagree with that at all. They're very tropey. So
okay. This book is the next one I'm going to talk about, and this is Nocterra. This is the first issue. It's written by Scott Snyder with art by Tony S. Daniel and colors by Tomu Mori. I know that the second issue is already out. I only have the first. I've only read the first. And when I got this, I stepped back and I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't have pre-ordered it. Like Snyder's in this whole like dystopian thing right now because from what I understand, Undiscovered Country is operating in that terrain. Certainly Last Night on Earth, the Batman Black Label series was like that, and certainly elements of Metal work along those lines. So I stepped back and I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't have pre-ordered it, but I got it, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Nice world building. Let me just give you the basic template of what's happening right now. The main girl here, a girl, sorry, I'm not sure if I should have put it that way, but the main character here is named Val Riggs. She is adopted from by foster parents from Mexico. She initially grew up with an eye condition where she was legally blind, but because of an operation, she got her sight. And we see a brief glimpse of what her life was like before something happened called the PM. And we don't have a full explanation what the PM what exactly happened during that event, but basically the world is dark. The only people that survive are those that have access to artificial light. And if you were plunged into this darkness, there is a high likelihood that you were infected and basically become these like really gross creatures, and this affects both humans and animals, and also affects the vegetation. So you get zombies almost in a sense on three fronts. So you'll see here, this was like a bird, used to be a bird, and it's all nasty now. So we see her very briefly just as the PM event occurred, and then we cut to 10 years later, and she is one of a group of people called the Ferrymen, who take people back and forth, or basically many of the times it's a one-way direction to certain outposts where there are pockets of civilization. She has an adopted brother. She's Latina. The adopted brother is African American, and they've both survived the PM, but there is a problem. And we see her first on a mission, and then after that, we see the encampment where she lives, and she has an offer by a mysterious elderly man and his granddaughter to get them to one particular area. And initially she says no, but then she decides yes when something involving her brother has occurred. I felt at the end of this issue like I had read about 4 or 5 issues with this world as it was laid out. I'm not a huge Tony Daniel fan. I don't get it. But the colors, especially when you have the limitation of what is effectively a dark world, this fella, this Tomu Mori, I just love what he has done on this particular book. So for a book that I was, even after I ordered it, all the reservations came flooding in. I was glad this was one I picked up. I don't know if it's something that I'll stick with, but I will say that I enjoyed it far more than my prejudices originally provided me. So
yeah.
So that's Nocturne. I don't know if any of you guys have picked this one up.
Yeah, I have. I picked up and read the first
sorry.
issue. Yeah, I picked up and read the first issue. I have the second issue on my stack to be read. Unfortunately, it's not because it's not good. I just have so many that I have to read before it. But yeah, I feel the same way. I think the colors are great. The world building, which is a term that's overused, I think, but at the same time, I think it was done well in that it gives you a quick introduction of like the possible origin, or at least the origin point, and then throws you right into the action. Does a very perfunctory way of explaining things, so there's not a lot of exposition other than like maybe her thoughts, just sort of like her narration saying, "Hey, I'm a ferryman, by the way, here's something that I'm doing." And it sets up a kind of like what you would normally see in this type of work if it were like a film or something, where it's like, hey, here's a mission, you need to get person A to this location, but we've lost contact with that location, just so you know, like something like that, and you're like, it's setting up for a lot of really cool action, a lot of cool mystery, something.
And again, like we don't know a lot about the event itself at this point, but unlike this piece of shit, you don't mind the unraveling of the story, because it is more finely crafted, and it does give you enough of a hook and enough of an understanding of the general template that it maintains your interest, even though there are question marks hanging over things.
Yeah, exactly. And I did want to pop this up real quick. David Toby again had mentioned going back to the Darkhawk, Shadowhawk, Nighthawk, neither to be confused with Nighthawk. There's lots of like dark thing and hawk that happened in the early 90s. So just a FYI.
Well, Nighthawk goes back to the 60s with the
60s. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then of course you got going back further, Blackhawk. So
I got that too over there.
That's Blackhawk.
I love Blackhawk.
But anyway, and John Runyon also says, I really like the Nocterra book for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's fun. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and I think that's a word you said. It was more fun than I anticipated.
Yes, it was fun.
There was a fun element to it, which was not something you really associate with Snyder too much.
Not lately.
But there was, I don't want to say it was like more lighthearted than some of his stuff, but there was a more of a breeziness to the way the story unraveled. I thought, there's still very heavy things that happen, but it did seem that the sense of momentum that the issue offered was energetic. It was, and that energy was a fun energy. So,
yeah, which is good.
Mhm.
Cool.
All right. I guess we can do another book quick before we go to Woofs of the Week. I know we're getting a little bit late, but if you want to do a quick one, do a quick one.
I'm going to do super, super quick because I've talked about them before. But AWA, here's my indie book for the week. AWA Resistance Uprising #1, issue 1 of 6. This is the latest entry of the shared universe that AWA has been building. J. Michael Straczynski writing sort of like the core titles here, the Resistance books. This time joined by C.P. Smith in art. He's been working with Mike Deodato up to this point, so very or one of a lot of his stuff with Mike Deodato. But this book takes place immediately after the last Resistance series, like literally like a panel later. So if you've been reading it up to this point, it just flows right into it, and really sort of sets up the next stage of this sort of new superhero or superpowered universe, I should say. Hello, puppy. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. I recommend picking it up if you haven't read any of the other ones. I know the first wave of books from AWA. Oh, hello.
Oh,
Where's the puppy? He's a puppy. But yeah, I know the first wave of trades are available if you can't find the floppies. So I suggest picking this up and the previous Resistance books up. And also, I think there's been one other tie-in issue, kind of like tie-in to the whole shared universe thing, and that is Erratic, which I believe is having its last issue of the miniseries either this week or maybe next week. And that's sort of like a fun, more sort of like all ages version of the world that's being built in this one. So Resistance Uprising, first issue, just came out last week. It's 6 issues long.
Okay, over to Caleb. What's your quickie?
All right. So first off, if you've noticed my door being knocked open for the past 5 minutes, it was this little creature letting me know that she's still here. So this is Jezebel. She's my little buddy. So this 2 weeks ago from Image Comics, a book called Home. I don't know if either of you guys grabbed this or not. They were pushing it fairly heavily. It's a very timely book. It's written by Julio Anta, Anna Wazetsky, Brian Valencia, with Hassan Otsmane Ilahu that did the colors on it, or the lettering on it. Excuse me. So this story is it's art born out of politics. I think that's the fair to say. It is a story of a mother and a young son who come up from Guatemala. They take a month and a half long trek to get to the United States. The mother's the dad had been killed by some local gangs, and they were after her son, who's a young boy, probably kindergarten to third grade. If you want to pin an age to it. And so they make the long trek. They try to get to the United States, and of course, when they leave, they think that they'll be able to go up to the fence to the gate and claim asylum. But during their trek, when they don't have contact with anybody, the Trump administration launches their family separation policy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very hard to read book because you kind of know what's going on. Again, it's art born of politics. If it had have been just that, I think I would have been kind of in love with the book because I'm very much, these are my kind of stories. I like narrative fictional realism. I think the stories are important to be told. There is a little bit of a twist at the end of the story, though, with the young child as he's pushed into one of these ice encampments in a cage. Again, very hard to stomach, very hard to read if you're me. But something happens and it takes on a more of a superhero type trope. He's got some sort of power. that manifests at that moment in time. So the story takes a little bit of a different turn, which made me like when we got to that part, I'm like, okay, that makes sense why it's at Image Comics and not at like Fantagraphics or Drawn and Quarterly, or a place like that. So I enjoyed it. Like I said, for me, like I like the type of Fantagraphics books. I like the immigrant stories that are just immigrant stories. I like the fictional realism. So when it gave us the twist, that took something away from me as far as my enjoyment.
Frozen.
He's frozen.
And I may have just broken up a little bit because my internet's doing something weird.
There you go. Okay, you're back.
Yep, I blipped. Sorry about that. Is it 5 years later?
And we're still here. We just kept waiting. We kept it alive for you.
You're right where I left you. But yeah, pick up Home from Image Comics. It's an interesting read. I think it may be for you. Your mileage may vary. I thought it was great.
Okay, I have an indie comic book recommendation. However, unlike the two that you recommended, my book isn't heavy. It's very lighthearted, and it also happens to be 33 years old. So the book that I recommend, if you can find this, is Kerry Callan's Directory to a Non-Existent Universe. And what we have in this book is a takeoff of the official Marvel handbook, or as most people in the know call it, OHOTMU, or DC's Who's Who. DC's Who's Who just had an omnibus that came out, and there are omnibuy for the various versions of the Marvel handbook. And in this non-existing universe, there are a lot of punny names, but they come from that really cute Silver Age soft spot, like the dog that can turn into a Human Torch like character named Hot Dog, the Kremlin Gremlin, Macho Ma'am. I mean, they're like really puns, but somehow they work. My favorite character, though, is, if you can see here, I'm going the wrong way, Mark. And the description for Mark is: he was born in a typical town. Mark Smith grew up to be a normal human being. When he was old enough, he moved out of his parents' house and got a decent paying job of his own. He now goes to work 5 days a week, except when he's on vacation. There are several goods he enjoys eating and some TV programs he enjoys watching. He enjoys companions of the opposite sex. He does not enjoy paying taxes. Mark is of average height and build. So
truly an everyman superhero.
We really need Mark in there. And the funny thing is, in the backup story, we have Mark. So and the backup story
goes to the post office.
Effectively is a Justice League story called Super Time. Nice. So I looked up what happened to this Kerry Callan guy, and I thought, well, God, he's this book is over 30 years old. I hope he had some kind of career, because it's not a familiar name to me. Turns out he has contributed every so often to Mad Magazine, and has worked for over 30 years for Hallmark as a designer of cards. So good on you, Kerry. He has a blog, and there's some really clever posts there. So totally by accident came across this in a bin. Since ICG, it was a sub-imprint of Eclipse Comics, and they were the ones that put out the DC indexes that are very much like this. I had to grab it. So
what month was that published?
December 87 is the cover date.
I'm 2 months older than that book.
Okay.
He's not going to dignify that with a response.
And also, because it was Eclipse, you have Eclipse merch on the back. Nice. And at that time, you could have gotten an Airboy mug, or look at this, a Miracle Man shirt. Pretty cool. So,
I mean, that stuff now is gold. Like if you owned any of that and it was still in good condition, that would be fantastic.
So, if you can find it, that's my recommendation.
Awesome. Hey, we did want to make a quick little shout out here to David Toby. Nottingham #1 second printing is out next week. Mm-hmm. So that's good. I think it also went into a third printing as well. So if you can't get it this next week, I'm sure you'll be able to find it afterwards. But excellent. Okay.
And also, there's a name that didn't pop up on the comments today that usually pops up, and
Yes.
that's James Figueredo. And we probably should mention that unfortunately James contracted COVID. He was hospitalized, but we received a message from him today that he's out of the ICU, hoping to get out tomorrow. Breathing without assistance, I believe, was part of the message, right? So James, let's hope you're not a long hauler, and please get home very quick. And we love you, and we missed you on here, and hope you're hearing this. And please get well.
Yeah, we've
Please.
been thinking about you, James, and
All day.
definitely
Thinking about you all day. So
definitely hope you
yeah.
have a quick recovery from this, and we shall see you soon in the comments and online and in our hearts.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this episode up according to the time that I'm seeing here. And when we wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears up, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him, and we do something very similar. This is our segment where we signify something which may be a comic book, but it may also be a film or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, or in this case, viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll go over to Steve as I always do first. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, to nobody's surprise, especially not my own, my whip of the week is a TV series. And this one, funny enough, is available to everybody in the United States and Canada and probably overseas by this point, hopefully. And that is the new TV series, The Nevers, which is put out by HBO. And had a little bit of notoriety and infamy, I think, because this is the last series that Joss Whedon worked on before all of the shit hit the proverbial fan about his, his treatment of other actors that he's worked with over the years, from Buffy all the way through the Justice League work that he came in and finished for Zack Snyder originally. But he has stepped back from the series, so it does have a new showrunner now. The pilot aired about 2 weeks ago, and then this past week was the second episode, and it's fantastic. There really wasn't a lot of a tonal shift because, again, when you have somebody new come in, and I'm sure we experienced this with Justice League, you can sometimes have a big break in sort of the way characters are written or whatever, but I think this is a good series. It's like Victorian X-Men, not League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This one is more definitely women-centered. Very cool, interesting play with politics and class and race, and also aliens, because why not? But it's got a lot to love. The acting is wonderful. There's a lot of great character actors in there, and also some actors you might recognize and love. But I recommend it. Sunday nights on HBO or HBO Max, and probably Netflix elsewhere on the planet. But yeah, The Nevers. Check it out.
All right. Over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your wolf of the week?
All right, I'm gonna cheat because I can get away with it because y'all love me. But I've got a big wolf and a subwolf. I'm gonna start with the subwolf first. My subwolf actually goes out to my favorite hairy heavy homos, you guys, because you were just here recently put on a list of the top 30 comic book podcasts that you should listen to. And it's a little bit self-serving since I get to play in your sandbox every once in a while because you guys are kind enough to let me come hang out, and I really appreciate that. But that's big doings, and I wanted to say that while we were on here is I'm incredibly proud of you and proud for you that you guys hit a list like that, because number one, it's true. Number two, there's a lot of comic book podcasts out there, and somebody saw the gem that this one is. So congratulations to you, Steve and Brian, to the former co-hosts that just make this possible. So and
thank
again,
you so much.
Me play in your sandbox every once in a while.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was very humbling seeing that list, and names like iFanboy was at number one, but it was there were podcasts I knew on that list, which were really nice to see, and some podcasts I didn't know, which and given some of the descriptions, ones that I really want to check out. But very often it feels like you're in a vacuum, and that the download numbers don't exactly tell the full story. We've never really taken off on YouTube in terms of numbers. I think because we have a majority of people watching this as it happens.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see that, and thank you, Caleb, because we love SFG, and what you guys have done in a very short period of time is really impressive, and always love having you on, and very glad you had a break in the action there for law school that allowed you to join us tonight.
I am too. I wouldn't be anywhere else. I really do love it. All right. So next to I'm going to play off you. So this is, enough with the making, letting you know I love you because you already know that. But I'm going to play off you since you talked about the DC Who's Who and you mentioned the Ohatmu. Here most recently, I brought a big old giant encyclopedia-sized official handbook of the Marvel Universe deluxe edition omnibus that has everything and its brother in it. If all the old drawings, everything, the full color, it's you just get so much coolness in this thing. And I constantly find myself in the past few weeks running back to this because we'll be watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Rod will be like, well, what's that? And then I'll go down a rabbit trail and be like, ooh, hang on, let me go get the Bible. And I'll tell you who the Marvel people are. It's super cool. I love the Ohatmu stuff. I dig this kind of ephemera when it comes to the 80 years of Marvel that we have, or whatever it is now. It's great to see these drawn, reprinted in the way that they should be shown. To check out. Also, if you run out of time, you can just curl with it. You get a good workout in, because the thing weighs about 20 pounds. So that's my wolf of the week, the Ohatmu Omnibus Deluxe Edition.
Makes me want to go out and find my old binder, because I used to have a lot of the original ones where you could actually take them apart because they had the three hole punch and just put them in your own binder.
Right.
I've got that somewhere back there somewhere.
Okay, my wolf of the week has a musical introduction. If you know that song. And it's coupled with a thank you. And I was very surprised earlier in the week to get a knock on the door from Amazon, and what was there but Confess, the autobiography of Rob Halford, the lead singer of Judas Priest, or as he is commonly known, the Metal God. And this was a gift from our own Caleb. So there you go, Steve. The Steve encountering another Understanding Comics moment where he can't hold up the same thing.
I don't have a copy.
I haven't gotten very far into it. I've gotten up to the point where they signed with CBS and tour the States for the first time with REO Speedwagon and Foreigner, and aren't treated very well. But it really feels like I'm in a room with Rob, just telling me stories. I imagine if you do ever have the good fortune of meeting him, my only meeting with him was, 2 seconds after a Fight concert and an autograph. But he just seems like such a cool guy. And, just having, I know I'm in for it, given things that come down the pike, like his coming out publicly and his suicide attempt, and and he's always been very honest about his private life after a point in the 90s, and really looking forward to finishing this book. Really enjoying it, and I'm really bad. As good as I am with being on top of comic books, when it comes to autobiographies, I'm terrible with getting them in a timely basis. As much as I love Elvis Costello, it took me 2.5 years to get his book. So Caleb, thank you for facilitating that. I really, truly appreciate this.
I think in the Audible version of that, the audiobook version, doesn't he read it himself? I think. Is there an Audible version?
Maybe.
For some reason, I thought. Yeah,
maybe
there should be, and
if there's not an Audible version, and there's other areas of the world, particularly the UK and Australia, where spoken word books are really profitable, and there's a bigger market for them, from what I understand. So, if it's not on Audible, there still may be an audiobook of it.
Yep, there actually is.
Yeah.
Rob Halford, narrated by Rob Halford.
Yeah.
So he actually does get to tell you stories.
If I can recommend one along those lines, Pete Townshend's autobiography in audio form.
Who is he?
Who
I am? I am Pete Townsend. Come on.
First of all, this is 19 hours long, but it was so much fun. But I'm enjoying the hell out of this. So Caleb, thank you so much.
Well, and
Awesome.
Tying that in, it goes back to saying thank you to our comic book brother David A. Price from EOC. He got us sitting down this rabbit hole. He sent me this.
Oh my god!
So I'm a huge Judas Priest fan. Rob is one of my personal heroes, not only for metal but also being for gay and out in metal. So Dap knew that I loved that. He sent me this guy, which was like, oh, let me go down a Rob Halford rabbit hole, which led me to that. And you saying you didn't have that book yet, and so we've rectified all situations. So, because we're defenders of the faith, that's who we are.
What is your favorite?
Awesome.
What is your favorite Judas Priest song?
Diamonds and Rust.
What's your favorite original? Not many people. Diamonds and Rust was actually written by Joan Baez.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a cover. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
She was really metal,
No, it's a fantastic reinterpretation of it. It's a great song.
Oh, that's hard to say. I was quick with Diamonds and Rust. Now I've got to come back and breaking the law. I mean, I know that's cheap to say, but that really is like the romp in that.
Yeah, maybe one of my favorites is a favorite, and that's Painkiller.
Yeah,
I really thought that was going to be like a reinvigoration of that group. Instead, that it was their last moment for a long time.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I've got Harley Davidson tattooed down the back of my arm, so breaking the law just kind of fits.
Yeah,
I'm a biker at heart, so even if I don't have one right now.
All right.
You're not supposed to have one. You're not supposed to have one.
Oh, Steve, do you have a favorite Judas Priest song?
No, I do not, unfortunately, because I did not listen to enough metal.
Well,
I was more college radio, goofy.
I can also say Judas Priest are a heavy metal group for people who are not into heavy metal.
Yeah.
So there might be something there you like.
But
are they Scorpion?
One of the best heavy metal love songs. Turn On Your Light, Judas Priest. Like, I love that song.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so many good songs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole.
Yep. And I shared you that video from the Tube. That's usually bands on TV sound like shit, and they just sounded so good, like right at the beginning of the Defenders of the Faith tour. Yeah.
I think that was the last live show I went and saw was actually Judas Priest with the Heap.
Uriah Heep.
Uriah Heep, opened for him, and that was right before the singer passed away. But Craig and I went to that show in Little Rock. I think that was the last live show I saw.
Okay, cool. Like the last time I saw them was with Saxon.
Yeah.
I think there was a third band, maybe.
I saw Saxon with Motorhead.
Yep. All these dead people now.
Gay podcasts.
Motorhead's like they're all dead now. Like all the classic three are dead. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
but still amazing music.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to wrap this one up. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears podcast. If you want to listen to us, please download us through iTunes, listen to us through Stitcher Radio, or catch us on many of the other podcasting platforms. And if you feel the need to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. And again, I have mentioned many times, please like us on YouTube. We're trying to build our profile. Our profile.
Profiles, sure.
on that platform.
Build
So,
our channel.
Please like and leave reviews wherever
Like,
you
subscribe,
can.
and hit the bell.
And so so until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
You're going to hear a woof and an explosion. If you're listening to the audio, we'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye.